As we all know, last time we had quite the extravagant dinner with quite amount of old fables and, well, quite frankly, new stories that will most likely eventually turn into fables. We had a very personal screw up with personnel that needs not completely be mentioned here. But we also had a couple dance numbers, which I think should be. Um,
As often as possible.
and after that, as Dinesh went to um, went on a side project. Jill went on her own side project as she went to talk to Dasan and kind of suss him out as as a Herodian and as to his motivations. Um, Learning that, or getting yet another few examples of the Herodian being, for lack of a better word, civilized compared to the ones we know and, somewhat love. Uh, she came back to the Nightingale with, well, just a little bit more confusion about the subject and a little bit more clarity about how Dasan reached the Alpha Quadrant, that being a wormhole, which he has not refused to tell the location of, but has simply stated that he'd prefer to know you guys a little bit better before he does. I, for one, don't think that's a truly unfair proposition, but that's not for me to determine. And lastly, we raced off to our first contact situation in the Azuria system, and just uh, having just managed to get to the outskirts and having taken a couple scans, the ship starts to drift inwards towards the sun. However, before we get to that, I'm going to do a little flashback and bring us back to the captain's ready room as the Nightingale blasts off and the sesh has been deposited back on the ship.
Okay.
Should I go from my last line? Makes me wonder which side of the courtroom I should be sitting on.
Well, to be fair, I apologize that you wasted your time. It sounds like.
Well, probably look good on my win-loss record. That's hardly the point, though.
Quite. Officers like that. She just shakes her head.
I mean, the worst thing is that I appealed to everything that I hate. That, like, ever since the Dominion War, there's been just this feeling that the warmongers ultimately got what they wanted, and that that Starfleet, like, is sitting here in its victory with having put all of its resources into war and sitting here just itching to rattle a few sabers. And I despise the idea that kind of impunity is something that I am supporting.
Well, to be fair, you handled it a lot better than I would have. Because if he was going to act like a child, I would have disciplined him like one.
I considered the possibility of, but ultimately, it wasn't going to change anything. His life continues to be black and white. There's not much way that hearing from me is going to change anything.
Well, I mean, I learned a long time ago you can't treat stupid.
I just, well, Captain Rust is your friend. I hope everything works out okay.
Eh, I'm fairly sure if I went up and, like, anyway, Rost and I will be fine.
Who knows? Maybe he's still got some hero left in him. It was really quite an impressive file.
She shrugs. I'm sure it was. Although his medical file is nothing to be envious of, I assure you.
Well, I assure you, Captain, I'm not going to let this keep me down. I've long managed to resolve myself to the fact that as long as I do my job, uh, people are responsible for their own behavior. He's got his fourth chance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, off the record.
She shrugs. I'm fairly sure they gave James 5, so he might be on his last one. You never know.
See. Well, thank you, Captain. I'll be back on the bridge soon. I'm looking forward to our first contact. In anticipation of that, do you think that it's time for us to introduce Aryan Cash?
I'm sure we can do that. Yes, I
I
don't see why not.
Well, let's start with you. Well, Aries here, right? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Aries usually
Have I
everywhere.
ever seen you two apart?
Uh maybe, but very rarely.
Okay, so I won't worry about you meeting him first because that's just not going to happen. Uh, so, um, yeah, let's leave that till after the first contact. Then I'm sure your yeoman can take care of dog sitting for now.
She nods.
See you then. I wait to be dismissed.
She just raises an eyebrow and smirks and says, "All right, I forgot I have to do this now. Again. Dismissed, Commander."
I leave.
And as Dinesh walks out, we'll walk back into the present time where, as I said, we are just reaching the outskirts of the Azurian system, and we have taken a couple scans. The first was of the system itself. We know that there are essentially seven objects within the system. The first one is obviously the sun. Um, the second being the first planet, which is a Class D barren rocky planet. It's followed by a water-based world, which you guys have already scanned and has a single moon. And I'll zoom into that planet in a second. The third planet in the system is Neptune, a gas giant very similar to Neptune. And the fourth one seems to be a glacial ice world. Um, and lastly, there appears to be a ring of, or in, I'm blanking on the word, an asteroid field that surrounds the system loosely. And now going back to that second planet, as you guys have scanned that as well, you know that's about 90% ocean with sporadic islands cropping out of the water. Um, there doesn't appear to be any land-based life. However, there's a number of amphibious-based life. Um, Lastly, you got some information about the actual planet's pattern, which I'm just going to post rather than read out loud. And I'm going to give it to you guys.
Right. Dr. Hikori, if you could get me planetary scans of the other two planets.
On
Well,
it.
how many planets are there? Uh,
Four total. You've
Oh,
scanned one.
yeah. So the other three.
okay. Doing so now.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't you know what? Let's go closest to furthest. Closest to you would be on the outside of the system. Um, why don't you give me a control science and oh, distance shouldn't be that relative, but because you're so close, I'll usually I would put the difficulty at 2, but I'll put it at 1. Um, and if you'll, I apologize so much because I actually just looked at it and I realized that while yes, for momentum purposes, I am putting the difficulty at 1 for this planet. If you get 2, I'll give you more information, and if you get a 4, I'll give you even more information.
Alrighty.
And someone can assist, and so too can Ship.
Jill can assist with that.
Okay.
You you don't have a focus, but you can make one.
No, let's just go with this.
Okay. She got her 2. I get ship assist with sensor science.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I might have hit the wrong push to talk button, but yes.
And last but not least, let me see here. Astrophysics as a focus.
Oh yeah.
No. Oh,
But okay, can I re-roll that? Which doesn't matter. We do get an extra momentum after over all of that.
Wait, what? What's up? I got you.
With Jill assisting, as long as the test succeeds, we gain a bonus momentum.
Okay. Excellent. So 2, 4, I'm just gonna pretend it was 5 successes because the whole task succeeded, so I can do math easier in my head. That gives you guys 4 momentum going in. And okay, what you guys can, as the sensor scans come back and Kiana and Jill kind of huddle over the console working together, they both see that while this is structurally a typical icy planet, um, the ice isn't solid all of the way through. That creates large gaps in the pockets of the ice. And the last thing is that there's, well, an unnatural metallic formation deep within the pockets. Uh, you can definitely tell due to how it's constructed and how it's shaped that it is indeed not natural. Oh,
Hmm.
whoops. And you know
Oh.
what? The information helps a little bit more when I take it off the GM part of the notepad. So just give me 1 second.
Hee hee hee.
Uh, Jill and her will relay back to the captain uh, what has come back on the scans. It's most definitely man-made, but what it is, we do not know.
Hmm. Doesn't look disturbed though, right? Like they could maybe not even know that it's there.
That's always a possibility, but right now, I can't tell you.
It's
Do
it
we
is
have
very likely it's not recent.
any sense of their navy? Like, are there any other ships in this sector?
Yes, I didn't. I'm
I
sorry, I
think we
didn't get.
mentioned this last week, but I don't remember what the answer was.
I can
Well, there
overview if
was
you
Uh,
like.
there was about 50. If I remember correctly, give me 1 second.
I can overview if you like.
What's up?
I can overview it if you like.
You wrote it
Sure.
down?
Yeah, there's about 50 ships in the system that we picked up. Most of them are roughly scale 3, and there's a handful of them that are much larger. But those are very few and scattered about. Notable differences would be uh, no shields but thick armor.
Hmm. No star bases or the equivalent?
That
Orbital
would be
satellites? Okay.
satellites. That you there's conspicuously few enough to that would certainly account for a communications network, a warning buoy, but the system itself doesn't appear littered with space junk in the way a lot of systems typically are.
Okay. Are they concentrated around the water world?
Mostly.
Mhm.
Mostly, yeah.
All right.
She'll nod and she'll say, make a note to survey the planet after relations have been solidified.
Yes, Captain.
I pull
Would you
out my keyboard in anticipation of us hailing them.
Yep. For now, she's going for scans of planet 3 and 1, and then she'll hail.
is scanning the other planet now? Just give me a second. I will let you know what I find, Captain.
Same thing all over again.
Alrighty, so for this one, we'll choose the gas giant. Why don't you, once again, it's actually gonna be the well, quite frankly, same deal. For momentum, it's gonna be at 1. However, up to 4, I will give more and more information.
Okay. Here is the ship, and here is Jill.
Come on.
But
Yep.
I can allow Kiana a reroll of that 0. Nope. There is another momentum which I'd suggest burning momentum for for additional information. Wait, there is no D3, is there?
There is.
I'd be,
There is. There is. This time there is.
yeah, if we can burn a momentum for extra information to qualify as the difficulty 3.
No problem with that.
No problem at all.
Yeah. I'll absolutely hey, that means I don't have to do anything to the charts. And you know what? I'll even give you a little something extra for that burns momentum. So first things first, as the scans come back, you can see that one while it is a gas giant, it does seem to have formed just slightly too close to the sun to have formed as a gas giant. Sorry, and as you guys kind of hunker down and look at the numbers just a little bit closer, you realize that the orbit itself seems slightly askew, and should it continue for uh, thousands of years, it will eventually have a long, lazy spiral inward towards the sun. And
Ooh, that's got to have some second order effects.
uh, that being said, allow me to just restate the timeline here. This is not an immediate problem, but it is most certainly a problem.
Yeah, the only person
What is
that'll be,
Jury.
I was going to say the only person that's going to be alive to actually see it happen is Nero.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the civilization that's got some skin in the game would probably want to know the time scale, though.
Yeah,
What
probably.
can we get a sense of it?
Uh, can you get a what of it?
A sense of the actual time scale? Like, are we talking 500 years? Are we talking 65 million years? What, like, how long have they got before they light up this gas giant?
I'd
I
say
mean,
it's about 2000 years before I would say the problem starts to scale by orders of magnitude, and I'd say about 2500 to 3000 years from now it'll be irreversible. It'll be plunging in there, and really only the hand of God would probably be able to pull it away.
well, then,
Uh,
I mean, we could put that as I don't know, maybe a kind of try and frame it as a gift, maybe somehow. I don't know.
assuming they don't already know.
Right.
And
It's true.
fair
lastly, because I did promise you all one more piece of information. Um, as you're concentrating on the gas giant planet, a couple other things ping up too. Why they didn't come up on the first scan, even I'm not 100% sure, but there are a couple of uh, smaller, not overly large, but small little space stations. One in what appears to be loose orbit around the moon of the second planet, and a couple others peppered throughout the system.
Sorry, that was the second planet, the water planet.
Yes, sir. That was
Okay.
also my way of overlooking something in my notes, and
Oh, okay. All right. Just yeah.
Are there any around the third planet seeing like monitoring stations or whatever?
no.
Because I mean, literally anything. I mean, yeah, it's thousands of years, but at the same time, literally anything could happen to that damn thing. So Okay.
Well, one of the things that is interesting to me is that uh, that this is a spacefaring civilization, but most of the construction on the water planet is relatively new, which makes me think maybe this civilization had a fire lit under it recently, that maybe they needed to leave their home system in some way. Uh, I don't know. That's just speculation.
Possibly.
Would you like me to scan the last planet?
Yes, please, Doctor.
Yes, please, Doctor.
She
Right, doing
smirks
so.
at Dasesh.
Boop, 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 boop.
For this one, why don't you give me a control science? This one's just gonna be a straight difficulty one.
All right. Same thing as last time. Should have been 2 there. Okay. And the ship. And for Jill.
Oh, oops, I am mixing up old rolls, so I'm gonna put the momentum back before I find out the final.
Okay, we got a total of 4 successes. The last one was open insightful reroll. So that would also give us an extra momentum on top of that.
7.
Okay, so we're gonna have 3 bonus momentum, but one thing that's immediately apparent about this planet is that there's really um, nothing special about it. It's a basic rocky planet.
At least 1 momentum for additional information. Time range, since the gas giant is slowly circling in. A time frame on if that'll actually affect the second planet's orbit.
Interesting. Um, the answer is yes, it will, but not probably for around 16 to 1700 years.
Okay.
We got a couple of bonus momentum out of that scan, right? That we can't bank, right? Can we suggest
Yes, there's still 2 more.
maybe an advantage?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that as well.
Well, I'm going to pitch out there. Maybe this giant or this rock planet might obscure sensors in a way that might make for an easy escape route if we get in trouble here.
Interesting.
Maybe it represents something of a blind spot on their communications grid. I'm just throwing that out there as maybe an Easter egg for later if we need it.
My recommendation would be changing that be the sun. Since we can get detailed scans of the sun, we can see how to use it as a way to confuse our signal and get out that way.
It's just because this was the plan we're scanning when we got all of the successes, so I just figured we make it the planet. But it can be whatever.
I would definitely hmm.
You're the one that knows what's going on in the background, Jacob, so you can just pick between them.
Uh,
Or say no, I suppose.
well, why don't I Why don't I split the distance instead of just like a getaway or something like that? Why don't I, um, should you guys need to escape, um, or kind of go out in a bolt hole, um, should that institute in some sort of chase or firefight, maybe in that situation, at least for this session, you guys would roll, uh, maybe just add one success globally to each of your guys' task rolls involving that.
Yeah, like mechanically, that's fine. It's
That's
just that,
that's fair.
yeah. Narratively, though, it just represents a sensor blind of some kind that we discovered.
And I just, I hope that's an advantage that is not needed, but um, I suppose
Every
there's
everybody needs a plan C.
that's fair. And uh, and yeah,
All right.
I mean, if worse comes to worse, we can trade that information to the organization or just give it to them as a gift, right? Maybe they don't even know.
Yeah. Eh, that's fair. Um, but yeah, after the scans are done, she'll have them taken closer to the planet. And
absolutely. And as the ship starts to move in, about two-thirds of the distance go by, and you can see on all of your sensors that um, none of the ships are beelining towards you or anything like that. In fact, besides the ones that are already clustered by the second planet, the other ones, well, seem to be relatively holding position. And about two-thirds of the way in there, your Goodman looks over and says, um, "Captain, we seem to be receiving a hail."
uh, on screen.
And as the screen blinks to life, you can all see the visage of the well, for lack of a better word, captain or ship leader that you've seen a couple times, once now. Um, and and she says, USS Nightingale, correct?
Correct. And sorry, it's been a while. We have her name, yeah.
You do not.
Oh, and I'm sorry you have me at a bit of a disadvantage. You know who we are, she says. She smiles.
You may refer to me as NK. I rule this ship, this cetacean.
Ah, well, you can call me Morgana. She says, I am the captain of this ship. It's a pleasure to formally meet you.
Um, her her bearing remains rather stoic as she says, uh, from from my understanding, uh, you're to meet me on one of our establishments. Um, I will be taking you to see one of our ambassadors.
Ah, lovely. Um, should we should we prepare any? Uh, she looks down. We determined that the atmosphere was breathable in the buildings. Yeah.
Um,
Think
so we haven't really gone in depth yet, but with that, however, as she sees you looking down, you kind of took the next line right away from me as she once again stoically says, uh, before before you begin your descent, you you will scan the interiors of our establishments. Your kind often finds discomfort. However, you will adapt.
She nods and says, "Very well. Provide us the coordinates, and we'll make our descent." She says.
Um, as uh, as she starts tapping um, a couple notes on the keypad on her own keypad. She says, "I'm sending you the data now. You'll be traveling to our largest establishment, Blue Coral,
She nods.
and s- uh, she once again, without changing expression, simply says, um, in which case, I will await your arrival. Please don't delay." And unceremoniously, the screen just winks off.
do you suppose she meant by our kind?
I'm unsure, but I'm curious to find out. She says.
I am too, but
They may
she.
simply not be familiar with other races such as ours.
I'm actually concerned that they may be overly familiar with our kind. They just told us that people like us who go to their planet have experienced distress. Now that could be perfectly natural, but the fact is that we don't know about anyone who's ever been here before, which makes me concerned that they may be holding information back.
Or
And
we just haven't asked the right questions yet.
I'm not saying we don't go, Captain. I'm just pointing it out.
She nods and she says, "Noted." She'll say, "Commander Hunter, the bridge." She says, and she'll go to stand up. Uh, Ensign, if you could handle Ari while I'm away. Jillian, doctors, Commander, with me, she says.
of course,
Aye, aye, Captain.
And yes, this is the first time you've actually seen her leave any room without the dog.
And as I populate the shuttle, and since I don't actually have the token for him yet, Commander Hunt appears on the bridge as you all head to the shuttle bay, and just give me 2 seconds here. Alrighty. So the big question is, who's flying? And actually, I should say, does anyone want to make any preparations before we get to the shuttle bay?
Uh, Nira is taking security.
Just for
So,
herself or for everyone else?
well, I mean, technically for everyone else, but she can't leave the ship specific. There, she has to take her own Secret Service detail every time she leaves the ship.
I thought that was just flag officers.
It's
No, it's the captain.
it's
Okay.
yeah. There's supposed to be somebody for security, which Jill could easily be part of that security, being the chief of security on top of it. But if
All right.
there's if someone feels like they need someone extra, that also is very sensible.
No, Jill can qualify.
Is this the runabout that has the hollow upgrade?
It can be. It absolutely. I mean, I don't know why you guys wouldn't choose that one.
Well, I mean, the way Danube class runabouts work is that they generally have like they're modular that way, so that might preclude, say, storage or other things that we might want to, or
Sorry, what
additional
was,
photon torpedoes or whatever.
what was
I
your
don't think
question
that's
about?
what we.
What was your question about the runabout?
I was asking if we were taking the one that had the hollow upgrade because I wanted to know if I needed to upload cache to it.
Very, very unlikely to be needed, but it's easily multiple runabouts have been upgraded at this point.
Okay.
Can
Might as well
Kiana
have a guard dog.
I'm sorry, what was that, Kiana?
can Kiana have a knife that she just has hidden on her? A blade?
I mean, I'm not personally going to stop it.
Okay, that's all. She's gonna have one just kind of it's tucked into like a little garter belt sheath that she just kind of always has with her, just in case.
Oh,
That's
that's
fair.
fine.
Like a
By the
standard
way,
med kit.
the captain is not flying.
What was that, Vanderveer?
Jill can assist.
I will bring a standard med kit.
Excellent.
Fair enough.
Jill is bringing a phaser and a tricorder.
Yeah, Kiana will have her little to-go bag too of different stuff from the lab.
Science kit.
Yep.
I'll
Yeah.
fly if no one else wants to, but I'm not fantastic at it.
Well, either you or Jill, I think, is a good choice.
Yeah, either or. Jill can fly. Jill can co-pilot. Take your pick.
I'll fly then, I guess.
All right, so we've got one med kit, one tool bag, and one hidden blade, along with a shuttle and 5 individuals. And
We are
as
armed too, right? We have phasers.
well,
Jill,
yeah,
Jill definitely has a
all of you.
phaser.
Yeah.
Your prerogative to take one or leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my phaser.
All right. So I guess Vanderveers and Captain, are you guys bringing phasers?
The captain is
No.
unarmed.
Okay then. As
I just have a Type 1, though, really concealable.
that is certainly fair. And as as the 5 of you load up and power up the runabout, the shuttle bay doors start to slide open, allowing you a view of the deep black before you can see the planet, and it becomes the deep blue. And as the five of you blast off into space, I'm not gonna make you. You're definitely gonna have to do a roll here, but I'm not gonna make you um do a roll while you're in space because where's the fun in that? But as you start to get closer and closer to the planet, and as it looms larger and larger, um, you start to get to the point of the atmosphere. And I who was it? Who was main piloting? Sorry.
I'm pilot.
Uh,
Just
Mr. Desesh. As you start to hit the atmosphere, you can start to see the turbulent dark clouds of what appears to be a pretty perpetual thunderstorm that it's pretty large to go around.
Okay,
Although
well, I'm going to compensate for that as best I can. Juice the inertial dampeners and try to get us a flight path that gets us underwater as quickly as possible, so that that's a little less of a concern.
that is certainly fair. Um, and I actually like that idea. So because you kind of took the that pre-step instead of just was like, you know what, I'm gung ho, gonna punch my way through. I was gonna make it a difficulty 3. I'll tune that back down to a difficulty 2. Either control or daring, I think both would apply here with con. However, I'm gonna spend 4 threat to make it a complication range 3.
Okay. I do not have a focus in this. I would like to spend just because I don't particularly want to crash a momentum to get that going as well. Uh, so yeah, let's see how that goes. Here we go.
Well, it went
Not
pretty well
bad.
just starting off.
All right.
Have we an assist or
Jill is assisting. I was just waiting for the roll 20 to update, but uh,
alrighty. And you know what, as Disesh kind of boosts up the stabilizers a little bit, he starts dropping the shuttle down, and as it hits the atmosphere and the air starts to vaporize around it, suddenly everything gets dark as you're all plunged into those dark clouds. However, managing a nice spiral pattern with the winds, so the lightning can't get too big of a fix. The ship manages to delve down almost completely unmolested as it makes its controlled crash into the water. And as it does, and the five of you can um, see the air essentially disappeared, fully submerged in the aquatic environment, suddenly you can see the little rays of light as the shuttle flashlight running lights start to magnify, and um, you can see on your consoles the steady blip of the locator guiding you to Blue Coral, which
Mhm.
isn't very far away, perhaps just half a kilometer, maybe.
Since we're significantly over our momentum cap, can I suggest the advantage that we're creating kind of an algorithm that will allow us to more safely exit and enter this atmosphere in the future as an advantage? Perhaps making it so that leaving isn't going to be quite as harrowing.
Works for me.
Yeah, it's basically calibrating sensors to account for the weather here.
Yeah, we're learning from our ordeal, basically.
I think, you know what? I think that is fair. To get in and once you get out of the water, to get in and out of the atmosphere, uh, I'll stop asking for a roll.
All right, there we go. I think that's worth two momentum.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, so we're heading in.
Fair. And I'm not gonna ask you for a roll now anyways. However, I just want to clearly state that does not cover inside the water.
No, I figured there's big fish in there, and we're gonna have to.
And
It's a thing.
riptides and yeah.
Hmm.
The current and
Well,
the fact that Runabout's not designed to swim, it's designed to fly.
Yeah.
And it's gainly in the air itself.
No,
well,
we're building our bridges as we go.
that's a good way to look at it. And speaking of those bridges, I'm gonna say that after a couple of moments of kind of, well, getting your feet wet at piloting underwater, you manage to you manage to get the basics pretty well down, and soon enough you're cruising towards Blue Coral. And as a couple minutes go by, and
Uh the captain will actually look at Dr. Vanderveers and says, you wouldn't mind putting together a concoction for pressure uh, regularization, she says. There's no need for us to vomit on these people's floors the moment we step out.
Yeah, I figured that's what they meant by people being uncomfortable.
She nods.
We'll
Well,
also
since we're
want to
close,
decompress slowly when we get back, otherwise we'll get the bends.
Well, I'm sure we can do it on our climb back up. We can slowly regulate the pressure in the shuttle.
Jill will actually do a scan of what the appropriate pressure would be to start acclimating inside the runabout.
right, give me a control science. This would be the habitat, correct? Blue Coral.
Yes.
Control science um difficulty 2.
The captain still wants the hypo. Uh, what Jill's doing will help them when coming back up because they'll already be at the pressure of Blue Coral. So
Well,
they
we can
can
also adjust
slowly.
as we
So
get there too. Compression's a lot easier to adapt to than decompression. But for difficulty 2, take a threat. For our dice. Here we go. And that was the wrong button.
That is incorrect.
Well, good thing is I can roll one of those. So we got the difficulty 2. That clears one, and momentum to squash the other one.
Well, Here, what I'll do since you just rolled one, I'll just
Technical,
take um
uh, technical expertise. If the shuttle can assist, I can reroll one of those 20s. Which
That seems reasonable.
no. What I'm gonna do is since you rolled one dice the first time, you were only supposed to roll three. I'm gonna take the one, the two, and the complication and assume that you re-rolled the complication.
fair. So the the third roll would be a 13. I do not believe the runabouts would that be a success with the runabout, but
No.
re-rolling with technical expertise would have been an 8, which would have been a success on the other 0.
Hmm. So either way works.
Alrighty, bringing you up to 2 bonus momentum as you scan the habitat, and the pressure seems to be pretty consistent for uh, despite where it is located. The internal pressure seems to be pretty consistent for the the
Sea level?
Almost, but within the first 30 feet of sea level. Um, However, the whatchamacallit, habitat itself is entirely full of water. However, it's not of the same consistency as the sea around it.
As in the not pressure, or it's a completely different substance?
Um, so I'm gonna say this was you guys have 2 bonus momentum. Uh, you you can ask for some information, but I'd say that this, at least particular scan, was a lot more about pressure than the actual substance of the water.
Okay, but the pressure is different, is what you're saying, inside
Um,
the structure.
yeah,
They're regulating their pressure.
the pressure on the inside is pretty normal to sea level to minus 20 feet, 30 feet or so.
Yeah, but they're much
So
deeper than that.
mm, I wouldn't say much deep, but they're much deeper. It's probably a couple hundred feet down.
Okay.
So we're looking at roughly 4 atmospheres of pressure, but inside it's only just over 1.
Yes.
Implies maybe they're amphibious.
Like Trill and Betazoids. She smirks.
Uh, you guys do have 2 bonus momentum though.
Mhm.
I'd say
Can
at
we?
least additional information on if there is any pockets of atmosphere in there, or if it's completely filled with liquid.
It's for the most part completely filled. There might be like small pockets here and there, but not room-sized pockets or whatnot. For what it seems pretty full up.
Can we use the remaining momentum to just have successfully created the advantage that we have pre-pressurized ourselves, so that maybe we do better in whatever environment we are likely to be in, at least as far as pressure goes?
Pressure wise,
I think
what you
Joel had
found
already
out
had that
is,
covered.
yeah,
Well, that's what we were
it's
going
not going to
for.
be an issue. Um, but you already know it's not going to be an issue in there.
Okay, well,
Your
sort
your
of told us it
pressure
wasn't
is
going to be. So.
essentially
Although we may need to consider breathing equipment.
Can I take a medical scan for how livable this environment is for humanoid people?
Yeah. Why don't you give me a either control or reason with medicine or science?
Why do I feel like Vanderveer is going to be dog paddling?
Let's go with.
Reason, medicine, a focus in xenobiology.
I think that would
Examining another
apply.
people's examining another people's living environment.
Yeah, I think that would apply, and if for no other reason, you're the only human on the ship anyways, so you're checking for your people as well. And the difficulty was going to be 2. I don't know if anyone
Sorry.
wants to assist or whatnot. No, no, you're good. Um, let me just take this
Uh,
away.
yeah, the captain can.
All right. And Vanderveers, as you kind of bend over to take your own scan, and the captain kind of peers over to take a look at what you're doing, kind of wordlessly, hitting a control or 2, just kind of helping you out. You realize that the liquid itself, while it is water, is exceedingly saturated in oxygen.
Oh, well, I got good news and bad news.
Well, don't keep us waiting, Doctor.
Okay.
The
Do tell.
environment is a little more close to something like a perfluorinated chemical. It's entirely breathable. It's super oxygenated. So, in theory, we should be able to have regular cellular respiration.
Still, we're not really built for that, Doctor. Will we even be able to talk?
That's the bad news. The communication is really going to suck. I'm not sure how we're going to want to deal with that. Again, the acoustic properties of this stuff isn't something I've got a good idea of. Maybe it works. Maybe they have some sort of device. We might be able to just put some sort of a listening device in our own ears. They might have them available for us. I would assume that they have a decent way of communicating.
They
This
did
might be
Uh,
what they.
like us, so it would stand reason to at least believe that they have something adequate.
Now, the only other thing that concerns me a little bit is amongst aquatic species, the more common way people would get sick would be through parasites as opposed to viruses. They're much more transmissible in water environments. So I might want to whip up a hypospray just as a anti-parasital medication, just in case.
We're speculating right now, Captain, but this probably was what she was referring to when she said that our kind experiences discomfort at first. It tracks. It also sort of implies that she thinks that we shouldn't show up in uh, environment suits. There might be some sort of cultural taboo or something that we might be walking into there. We should consider that.
Seems kind of unneighborly, if you ask me.
Well, cultural taboos can be weird that way.
At the same time, personal safety should at least be understood.
Certainly, but we may want to tread carefully when bringing it up, is all I'm saying.
Um, the captain will look and say, well, not to add to your work, Doctor, but I would also like an antibiotic as well. She says, my species are not exactly known for our immune systems.
I walk over to the well, when I am in a position that I'm not actually piloting, like that I can put us on autopilot for a moment. I'm going to walk over to the replicator.
No, that's okay. I can manage.
Yeah, I wave it and I go over and I just swimsuit, one piece, command colors, and I get myself a swimsuit.
I like it. As the computer dutifully spits out your requested apparel.
Mhm. I find a discreet place to change into it.
As and Disesh comes back, legs out.
And to be fair, you know, Morgana's not going to make him be the only person to do that, so she will also do it. You know, school swimsuit, one piece, and like command red with the Starfleet emblem on it.
Well,
He's got the full thing with the chest covering because he wants to have his communicator. So
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
well, both of you are going to do it. Joe will do the same. Once Desesh sits down in his seat, she'll
yeah, trade out
get the same,
ice front.
get the same swimsuit to be able to navigate in water.
Yeah.
Um,
So does Kiana.
and what about our Mr. Vanderveer?
He's got a pair of boxers on underneath everything. He's probably going to be getting ready to use this little med kit to whip up an anti-parasitic.
Ooh, excellent.
I was fully expecting your lab coat to be floating in the water.
Oh, um, as why don't you give me you know what? How much that? Okay, why not? Why don't you give me a control medicine difficulty one for whipping that up, but complication range two. And is this the universal one or is this for the captain specifically?
This is the universal one. From what I understand about Elorians, they are generally indistinguishable from humans, so I would assume that they are relatively human-esque in their um, health situations. At least enough so that Elorians could like hide on Earth and not be bothered.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
But
a
I am
couple.
going for just a broad spectrum anti-parasitic things to keep away nasty worms, amoebas, nematodes, fungal parasites, protozoa.
is certainly fair.
Take a focus in epidemiology.
As embarrassing as this is, you're gonna have to remind me which one that is.
The study of viruses and, well, bacteria and things, I believe.
Branch of medicine that deals with incidence, distribution, and control of diseases and other factors relating to health by definition.
Then yeah, I think that would work.
Kiana lends a helping hand.
Ooh, excellent.
Okay, let
Lascivious
me
management.
get an extra dice for a momentum using my cautious medicine here. Okay.
Alrighty, and now we have an assist to get there, which is hopefully going to be icing on the cake.
Yeah, I'll come in and assist.
Alrighty, let's go with control medicine, or if you're feeling sassy, daring medicine.
And
doing medicine.
We're gonna go sassy and infectious diseases as a focus.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right.
Okay, we'll call that a flyby assisting. Giving you guys 4 bonus momentum as doctors. The two of you managed to basically create what I'll call the golden inoculation part 2, as as you uh, managed to make this wonder cocktail and also gain 4 bonus momentum in the process.
Now, Captain, just for the record, this is probably what the civilian medical field would call, in official terms, medically stupid. But I know this is Starfleet and we're going to do it anyway, so this should do all right.
I have a couple of more preparations I would like to make. This is probably not something that Starfleet has not encountered before. So can it be maybe this is a straight momentum buy, but there's got to be a device of some kind that you can use to communicate in these sorts of environments, like something that I can put on so that I can still talk, or like any of us can still talk in a oxygenated like liquid environment, or do I need to invent that?
There should be
Cetacean ops is a
design
thing.
for-
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking this already exists.
there should at the very because humanoids, the vocal cords don't work like that. I would expect there's at least some type of like a wrist pad.
Yeah, like
that would-
something like that can make me talk like Hawking style in a liquid environment.
Uh, well, you guys have 4 bonus momentum. Would you like to use one of them to create the advantage of that thing existing?
Absolutely. I have one other thing that I want to do that could be a momentum spend. Can I adjust our phasers so that they will not ignite a highly oxygenated water liquid environment if they're fired? Because that's a concern too, I think. In the event that we did have to defend ourselves, I'd rather not do so in a ball of fire.
Uh, Cards on the table, I probably would make that an actual task if for no other reason to fish for complications.
Fair enough. Let's do it.
Excellent, but well, let me get to the bonus momentum first before you probably end up adding more. Um, so for the 2 of them, and I'm just pulling this from the Patoot, but they're used for your own underwater, not in water, but well, actually none of your own except for Vanderveer. For Earth's underwater habitats, when it used to um, have a higher mixture of helium as opposed to oxygen, there was a talker unit created, so the vocal cords would essentially modulate to the atmosphere and people could be understood without much work at all. One of those things could be tweaked into an underwater thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we can do that, and then I have to make a roll for the phaser thing.
Yes, but before you do, you guys have 2 bonus momentum. So let me someone give me an advantage or ask me something.
Can we rig that up to the universal translator so that that's more efficiently integrated into the system, so that we can use our communicators, basically?
I'm not unwilling to do that. I'm I'm perfectly fine with that.
Just throwing that out there. Other people can make suggestions too. That was just my first thought. Is that we can't use our communicators if the medium of the water is is going to interfere with that. But if we can have them rigged up Bluetooth style to our communication rig that we're making here.
I would believe that that wouldn't even be an advantage spend. That'd be something by default for not being able to communicate.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it certainly could be something that could be used as an advantage just to get us out of this particular
Yeah, if
moment.
anyone has better ideas, otherwise that can just be a thing we thought of.
um, I don't know. It depends on if Nira got a look at their weaponry or whatnot. Like if the woman had like a spear, a phaser, or something on her side or whatever.
Uh, Not that you've seen, but thinking back, you've actually she's been behind the console for most of the time that you've seen her, so you've really kind of only seen her from upper chest up. So it's very possible she could have a weapon.
Hmm. Okay.
How do weapons relate to our communications rig, though? What were you thinking?
A gift of a very, very old weapon.
Oh, okay.
One that, like, probably only Arif has ever used.
Hmm.
Did we ever get a chance to actually scan one of their ships? I don't think we did.
You did not know.
Okay.
Honestly, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, so we move on, I
Yeah.
think.
All right. Yeah, so I'll take the Bluetooth and we'll call it, we'll account for the future, so we'll call it 24.0. Um and let's rig some phasers. Commander, why don't you give me a reason security or reason engineering? Uh difficulty difficulty 1. Difficulty 1.
I have a focus and phasers. Does that work here?
Certainly works here.
Okay. What's my complication range?
Just one, unfortunately. This is not very
Okay.
fun complication fishing,
All right.
but
I am going to spend one momentum on this just to be safe. Uh, uh, ooh.
alrighty, and we're back up to form bonus momentum
Hmm.
as you effortlessly reprogram the phasers, causing causing them to be quite useful
Hmm.
without causing a chain reaction the moment the beam hits the inner atmosphere.
Two
Yeah. And
more.
we can just say that the bonus momentum represents that I did it to everybody's phasers.
Well, two momentum. You can do it to the laser scalpel in the doctor's med kit too.
Yeah. I basically, environmentally rigged everybody's equipment, we can say, and that'll
Yes,
wipe out
I
the.
think I think that is perfectly fair.
Hmm.
As everyone gets as everyone gets environmentally ready, I should say. Um, just as uh, just as you guys get to the uh, kind of as the habitat itself within the ocean gets larger and larger. As you get to a few hundred feet away from it, suddenly the you can see well, from what looks like grappler hooks or bucking cables kind of streaming out from the habitat coming towards you guys, not at a significantly speedy pace, but you guys have a good 20-25 seconds before they actually reach the shuttle.
I look to the captain, but I am just going to sort of keep a relatively calm demeanor because I'm assuming this is just their like just pre-warp version of a tractor beam, and assume this
Yeah,
is just landing procedures.
yeah.
Yeah, Jill has very little reaction as well. She would be fine letting it happen.
Yeah, we're letting it
Captain.
happen.
Yeah.
Before I forget too, because I no longer have a particularly convenient place to conceal it, my phaser is now on a watch band.
Interesting. Okay. Uh, well, actually, that brings up a good point. I know the captain was unarmed, so nothing there, but Jill and Kiana, phaser and knife.
Jill's phaser is still swung on her hip. It is very obvious. It's also since it's also a Type 2, and being in a wetsuit doesn't help.
Hmm. Yeah, I assume the security people all still have Type 2s as well.
No,
So they
Jill's the
probably
only
have.
security you have. So
Oh,
um,
I thought we brought someone, but okay.
No, we just went with Jill.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, might as well have a visible weapon.
Yeah. My knife is under the wetsuit and it's still strapped to my thigh in the holster. And can she have a phaser also on her? Or only one
Uh,
weapon?
that is not a question for the GM.
Oh,
Um,
my apologies.
I
if
mean,
you
it kind of is in the sense of when they were certified for the ship, did they go through basic phaser training?
That is a question for the doctors.
well, that's Jill would have asked if anybody was interested among the civilians during the refit phase. So
And
yeah,
Kiana would have, been certified just
okay.
as backup.
Mhm.
Just as an option. And the knife is something that she's just always carries, kind of like a family heirloom thing. It's the ultimate backup. She likes to have an ultimate backup option.
This is
Uh, what
security.
about what about Dr. Vanderveer's?
Nope.
You got nothing?
Nothing.
Although Jill would recommend doing something similar to the commander, having the smaller Type 1 phaser.
Yeah, the captain would too. But the yeah, for Kiana, the Dr. Vanderveer can go unarmed like the captain if he so chooses.
Fair. And as the five of you get decked out and teched out, the grappling hooks um, start to get closer and closer until they you guys can all hear not they don't strike with enough force to feel, but you can certainly hear the clang as they make contact with the ship's hull, and as they magnetically engage, you can see them grow taut in the distance as the ship itself starts being pulled slowly and slowly into this habitat, and as uh, as you as you get to within about 50, 60 feet, you can start to see two of the two of the large glass doors start to slide open, and as they as you do, you can see that these doors themselves, at least this room, at the moment is temporarily empty of water, a fact that nature corrects quite quickly as the ocean starts rushing into it. And as you guys get pulled in completely and the door shut behind, you can you can you can see the water in the windows of the shuttle being forcefully ejected as the shuttle goes lower and lower and lower until it finally clunks onto the metallic floor, only for a couple seconds later there to be a rush of water again, this time from the interior of the habitat as the shuttle, though remaining on the floor, once again starts to become submerged and quite quickly, actually, the entire room itself is once again full of water.
All right. Well, the minute we open the airlock, this place is going to get filled with water. So, if there's any basic preparations we need to do to make sure that nothing gets harmed by it in here, I suggest we should do that.
The back section can close off and act as a proper airlock. So
Hmm.
we would only be flooding a very small portion of the back cargo bay.
Does mean we might need to do this like two at a time or something like that, though, right?
No, it should fit us all.
All right.
Yeah, it's your basic walk to the end. The back kind of comes down, and the other end opens up, flooding the section.
But
Um,
not the cockpit.
Not the cockpit or like the sick bay area or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, the runabout has multiple sections. The cockpit and the aft sections are separated from the middle where the access door is.
Hmm. Okay.
um, as the I'm sorry. We'll go from Commander DeSesha's point of view as you guys all line up towards the back and the airlock gets thrown open and suddenly, almost instantly, the entire chamber is full of this water, which um, is actually quite the pleasant temperature, and is completely see-through. And before we get to issues of breathing itself, the first thing that you see once the airlock is clear is a what appears to be a female, similar to same species for sure as the one that you've seen on a view screen a couple times. She's got long red, almost, or I'm sorry, magenta hair as it's splayed out and flowing in the water, and in her hands is a large spear, and she appears to be wearing a um, covered, kind of almost what looks to be some sort of ceremonial type armor over her chest. And as your eyes kind of go downwards, you see that where her waist actually begins is instead what appears to be a serpentine tail, culminating at the bottom in what appears to be a flipper.
Oh well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Fascinating.
Very. It makes sense with everything being water that their species is natively aquatic. And Jill's just whispering as much as is allowed.
And speaking of whispering, though, that being said, there is also the fact that you're all now kind of inundated in this liquid environment, and as you go to whisper, as uh, so I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that none of you have experienced this before. Um, and for a couple seconds, it's exceedingly disconcerting. As the water rushes in, it is very akin to drowning, which,
Our
well, quite
lizard
frank,
brains are going crazy right now because we're basically voluntarily drowning ourselves.
a little bit. There's shadow or psychosomatic pressure in your lungs. It's certainly, well, there is a different pressure in your lungs, but as this experience goes on for a number of seconds, and the five of you kind of start to, um, I won't say get acclimated yet, but start to realize that you're not on death's door. It's it definitely is disconcerting. And Jill, as you try to make those whispers, you realize that your voice, while recognizable, doesn't exactly sound like your own. There's there's almost a slightly more artificial and scratchy quality to it.
Okay. Considering it's so disconcerting, she's at least going to try to hold herself together, put on a brave face of not bothering her.
yeah, I was gonna ask for a presence command to try and do that too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. I think so. Complication range, I think at least for now, just due to this new environment, I'm gonna make globally the base at 2. Um, that being said, I'm not gonna add any complication to this. Why don't the both of you go, or anyone who wants to kind of pass this off as everyday's biscuits. Um, ooh, the biscuits. I'm sorry. Um, everyone who wants to pass this off as an everyday thing, why don't give me a presence command? Difficulty 1, comp range 2.
Take a threat.
Leadership as a focus.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Phew.
Nicely done.
We'll take a momentum for another die.
The captain is good at putting on is good at faking it. Just ask Arif. You can't
Momentum
tell.
for momentum
Wow.
to slosh.
It's a bit of a boomerang. Anyway.
Okay.
Um,
Now, with
and
that roll, with that issue that we got, could I do a talk them through? Liquid ventilation therapy is actually a thing, so just walking them through emptying air out of their lungs and breathe them in without panicking. With the command roll, I have a talent for doctor's orders to coerce or coordinate people into taking a specific course of action, which lets me use my medicine instead of command. Would you take that there?
Mhm.
I would, and I would, hmm. I don't want to do this exactly as an assist.
Mhm.
So go for your own task roll, and while that's happening, uh, I'm a little so what's going on with the last roll here?
Kiana was doing the same thing. I accidentally had it set to one die, so I just re-rolled it a second time.
Everyone's rolling presence and command to look good at this, but I was actually wondering if I could roll fitness plus command and be good at this, and actually, like, you know, be able to operate functionally better. I'm not really as concerned about looking stoic in this moment, but getting adjusted to the environment, or should I just roll presence command like everyone else?
Oh, I think that's certainly fair. I think I would definitely take a fitness command.
Okay.
But okay. So, but so let me go first things first. I'll get to the results after everything. Let me just make sure I understand all the roles. All right, Captain Morgana. I'm pretty sure I can understand that. Now let's get to Jill's. So it's a 3 with the complication.
Which 2 momentum to squash it.
Okay. I understand Kiana's. I understand Desesh's. Now let's go with Vanderveer.
Just because if people are having issues and maybe to try to recover some of that, doing the presence command roll, but using the doctor's orders talent to walk
Nope,
them
nope,
through
no, no,
how
no.
to
I
breathe.
got all that. I am good
Okay.
with that.
And then I will take a third dice for momentum, please. Okay. Cautious medicine. Let me re-roll that complication.
Okay. Now, let me, because you guys have so much bonus momentum, so let me go back up here. Um, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, 13, 14 minus 5 equals 9. So 6. You have 6 bonus momentum as you know what? And actually everyone succeeded. So as Captain Morgana, uh, Lawson, and Kiana all all kind of appear as if nothing nothing is wrong in these first few moments with this other being. Uh, Vanderveer is kind of whispering out advice on how to deal with this environment, some of which the Commander Desesh is probably incorporating as he's kind of really struggling to quickly acclimate himself with this, and as he as he does, I'm gonna say that pressure from your lungs is lifted quite a bit, and while I'll say it's obvious that the air that you're quote breathing or drinking is noticeably heavier,
Mhm.
um, that that distracting pressure is relieved, and
Mhm.
uh, for I'll take away that raising complication for you and set yours back to 1.
Mhm. Just for like amusing, visibly, this probably looks like I'm doing some sort of musical theater breathing exercise. Uh, because that's how Dinesh would probably interpret this, like he would, like he's prepping for his aria.
I like it. I like it. Kind of doing the
That sort of thing.
Um, and actually, as you're doing it, you can all see the being kind of uh, look almost with slight amusement at the commander, as she looks over to the five of you, and with her eyes finally resting on Morgana, um, she says simply, uh, "Are are you the leader?"
Morgana nods. Assuming she can talk now, she will say, yes. I'm not going to put her
Oh,
accent on because it's mechanical.
and speaking of that, you do hear your voice, but just slightly with an artificial tinge to it, as the being nods and she says, "You may all address me as Hira. Now I know who to address. If you'll please follow me, I'm supposed to bring you to the ambassador."
Of course, she says, and she'll swim forward, uh, probably followed by the rest of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Poor Vanderveer doggy paddling in the back, going, "Hold on, I'm coming."
hey, the man's a fisherman. I'm guessing he can swim.
You can't swim, but it's probably more fun to just moonbound across the floor.
Eh,
I
Oh,
haven't I haven't been this light since I was 13.
with with that image in all of our heads, um,
I'm gonna say,
uh,
don't have to worry about back problems here.
indeed, you were kind of she actually turns away, and you can see with the powerful thrust of her tail, she kind of very gracefully kind of shoots off up in a diagonal, and then after she goes about uh, 30 feet in a matter of seconds, she turns back and she looks over and seeing that you guys are all actually handling yourselves somewhat decently in this environment, uh, she starts speaking as she kind of turns around to face all of you, her tail now pushing out in front of her, causing her to float backwards as she speaks. And she says, "As you can see, this is one of our largest establishments, Blue Coral. Um, we will be uh, primarily on the lowest floor, I believe, for your duration."
Well, it's very lovely, and Captain says as she kind of swims closer.
Well, we simply consider it home, though that reaction seems to be quite commonplace.
Jill's
Well,
definitely taking in all the sight.
And speaking of the sites, it should be noted that this place is quite beautiful. There's very um, little actual metallic structure compared to um, translucent uh, the translucent. It isn't glass, but I'm just gonna say glass. Uh, as it gives an almost unfettered view of the ocean around, and not not only does it look uh I'm sorry, not only does it can is the view outwards, but the view is upwards, as you can see almost as far as you can see, just um levels and levels of various different buildings, all of it displayed and underwater, and it's almost like you're in a giant snow globe.
Kiana will have a look of awe on her face, like a kid at an amusement park for the first time.
Catching that, Jill just have a chuckle and all as she's looking around too.
Forward.
Yeah, Nira's is looking around, but she's being a little bit more composed and swimming towards their meeting.
Um, and as you guys kind of swim through these passages, you can see the water kind of ripple slightly as glass doorways kind of slide open to admit you and then slide closed. All the while, the water level remains consistent, and after a couple minutes, Hira steps outside of a um, and after a couple minutes, uh, Hira stops outside of a clear doorway, and inside of it, you can see um, NK, the person you've been corresponding with, next to um, yet another one of these same species, and as uh, as she turns to you, Hira, um, she says, um, "These this is the chambers of this is the chambers of Ambassador Marina. Uh, though it's obvious several of you are armed, I can only say that uh, should you decide to use them, well, it probably won't you won't appreciate the results."
I can assure you our weapons are precautions only. We have no intention of drawing them.
Um, well, um, almost as if you haven't almost as if you hadn't spoke. She kind of raps softly with one of her long fingers on the glass door, and it slides open to admit the room. And you can all see that there's amusingly, a number of chairs bolted down to the ground around what appears to be a surface similarly bolted. Um, and in the clear water, um, there appears to be kind of floating just little straps to each chair.
Ah, okay. Nira, seeing what is expected, more or less, will basically swim to, I guess, one of the chairs towards the other end of the table, being that, assuming that the ambassador is on one end.
Yes,
Okay.
the ambassador, both both Azurians are on one end.
Okay. She'll swim down to one of the chairs.
Listen,
Flank the captain.
Yep, Joe will be as pictured there.
Alrighty. And as the five of you sit down, you notice that the captain with which you were corresponding simply watches the action stoically, and you can see behind both of them. It's right up against one of the walls of the habitat, and you can see a plethora of ocean life kind of just swimming around in the lights as the woman that you haven't met says, "I'm Ambassador Marina. Uh, if I'm to be told correctly, you're from the United Federation of Planets."
Yes. Which is a group of various species that uh, come together to help one another, she says. Obviously, out of character, I don't feel the greatest, and I have no way of actually memorizing the whole Federation the mandate.
Nope, that is certainly fair. As as she nods and says, "We've heard whisperings and rumors of such an organization, but uh, we didn't know their tendrils existed down in our space."
We have a station not far from here, and we are currently helping in other sectors in this area.
Doing what? She asks bluntly.
Well, it seems that space is eating itself, more or less.
There's an environmental disturbance that is affecting nearby areas of space. It's a significant distance away, something like 80 light years. Uh, Unlikely to affect this area, but uh, uh, there's a great deal of concern about it. So we've been doing our best to give humanitarian relief and scientific support to people who are trying to deal with the situation in the interests of life.
Nira nods.
Um,
Please allow me to introduce my associates, she says. This is my uh, executive officer, my next in charge, she says, smiling at Desesh, Commander Desesh Araj, she says. And this is, well, my third in command, she says, Gillian Lawson. Uh, and these two are doctors. They hope to learn more about your people. She says, Doctors Hikari, she says, pointing to the trill, and Dr. Vanderveers, she says.
Kiana nods to both of them.
um, and the ambassador says, "And I believe you've already met one of our school leaders, NK. And as I said, I'm Larissa Marina, assistant ambassador, third rank."
She nods.
Uh,
But that is why we are currently in your sector of space, I would gather.
And you plan to be operating in this sector regularly?
Well, we're explorers, so we haven't been out this far, and we would like to at least learn about the area, he says.
I think it's appropriate to say that we will only be in this part as so long as we have your invitation. We ours is diplomatic mission. We have no designs, and indeed probably would not have been in this area of space for some time had you not invited us.
As you're talking after the sesh, after the captain um speaks about knowing the area, as you're saying that, you can see Ambassador Marina. She actually picks up what looks to be a clear glass ball on the table, and with her hand, she gives it kind of a vigorous shape. And by the time, I'm sorry, vigorous shake. And by the time you can start to see colors kind of swirl around with it inside it. And by the time you're done with your sentence, it's actually coalesced into uh, what appears to be a uh, a globe of that's showing the Azurian system. And as you finish talking, she sets the ball down on the table in front of in front of all you, and she says, uh, "Our invitation will only be revoked should you uh, comport yourselves in a manner we that is disrespectful or violent."
Which is why we will endeavor to do neither. We only want the opportunity to seek out new life and new civilizations, and uh, we come in peace.
Um, as you say new life and new civilizations, she gives the ball another little tap on the top with her finger, and you can slowly start to see those colors start to start to swirl again as the Azurian system gets a little um, smaller, and it almost looks like it's zooming out a little bit as one by one uh, it appears that it almost the map itself starts to fill in as the ambassador says, "Well, these are our closest neighbors."
Oh, um, is there? She takes a deep breath. Well, kind of. Um, um,
These are other civilizations that you have encountered uh, out in this like vastness of space.
The ambassador nods.
Uh, would, if you don't mind my asking, how many civilizations have you encountered before us out here?
In response, she says, "These are our three closest civilizations."
We would Very much appreciate to know at least enough that we might be able to eventually obtain similar invitations from your neighbors, but that will come in time, I imagine.
Um, well, speaking of time, she says, if it would seem that the manner in which we were acquainted, um, I believe it was a derelict ship.
Yes,
It
it
would
was.
What's the matter at issue? Yes.
it would appear that that ship or one of it is no stranger to any of these civilizations. And if I'm also to be correct on the matter, there's a representative of said civilization en route.
Yeah.
The
What was it?
captain
About
nods.
2 hours behind us? Was that what we
Four. So
and four? Yeah.
yes. She says it's um, you claim to help other civilizations. Perhaps you can help all of us with this issue that we're facing.
That gets Jill's attention. What?
Your invitation and the reason why you extended it to both parties is that you are concerned about the Herodian incursions into your space.
Uh, from what I understand, the Herodian contacted us, um, not after the incident. However, uh, given his position, I'm not the one that he'll be treating with.
Has Captain Desan gone into trying to explain his situation regarding uh, his, well, purported distance between himself and the Herodian that are supposedly raiding some of the, well, that are raiding some of the nearby territory?
I apologize. Matters such as that are typically above my level.
Well,
Sorry, I looked to the captain.
she says, I if you would like us to sit in as uh, a third party, we are more than willing to. She says,
Looking almost offended, the ambassador says that would be highly inappropriate. You are neither uh, your government's leader or a proven friend to us.
"Hmm,
The offer is only made because in our culture, our captains are often asked to be mediators for such things. If you do not wish us to be here for this, that is more than acceptable.
Um,
the captain nods.
in our culture, only trust and experience can rise above rank.
Then I would hope that over time we can prove that trust.
What kind of experience, exactly? If I may be so bold as to ask.
Uh, Time spent proving one an ally.
She nods.
Earlier, you suggested that you thought we might be of use to you in dealing with this problem. Did you have something in particular in mind?
Yes, well, not. Um, in a matter of speaking, we wish for you to make it stop. Our our planet has been there's been one incursion so far. However, as I've said, this ship has been, or this fleet has been plaguing our neighbors as well. Um, I simply wish it to end. Or we simply wish it to end, and if nothing else, it would be a good step towards a, uh, well, a meeting with our leader.
Nero will nod.
Um, and one other thing I'll say is you kind of, um, if anyone kind of looks at the globe, as it were, um, while it's pretty easy to determine the Azurian system locationally, uh, just because of its kind of vastly different cartography system, I guess. It's kind of a little tough to really get a sense of where anything is.
Jill will try to make an interpretation on that. Um, let's see.
I will ask, are you just kind of like trying to noggin it out, or are you uh, like kind of like scanning or whatnot?
If it's just the aura, we're going to try to interpret it just mentally, and she'll even just politely say, "May I?" and gesture towards the globe.
Um, she uh almost looking confused at the question, she says, "Of course."
Yeah, she will get a closer look at the orb and uh, I'm guessing. I'm guessing reason science.
Oh God, I apologize. I had a mind blank. I take reason science, or I'd also let you use insight or presence.
We will go with presence and science and take a threat and astrophysics as a focus.
Yes, I should probably say difficulty. Whoa, before you make final decision. Sorry. Just for the mental, trying to noggin it out. I'm gonna go with difficulty 4.
Okay. Also, to momentum. Number 4. And rerolling the 1. There we go.
Okay, excellent. As uh, as you kind of study the globe, perhaps in a momentary lull of conversation, you can really kind of hunker down and get there. You almost, as you look at it for long enough, it almost the space stops, at least in your head, being spherical and kind of flattens out a little bit to the displays that you're used to. And oh my God, quickly before I reveal this, have to put some. I realize I'm putting the labels on the GM layer. Sorry. um, it starts to actually make a little bit of sense to you about where everything is laid out and whatnot.
All right.
Mhm.
Can I have a couple of questions? Because like I just want to clarify, and if possible, maybe I need to make a roll or something in here. But if I could just talk through this, because what started out as a friendly meet and greet mission now seems to have, uh, shall we say, transferred into more of an exchange of into more of a negotiation, because it sounds to me like they are saying that we don't get to talk to anybody important unless we do something for them first, like that seem to be asking us to engage with and solve a problem for them before this process can proceed. Am I getting the sense of this more or less correct?
Uh, of on the outside, I would say yes.
Like I
I
didn't
wouldn't
hear that wrong,
necessarily.
right? Like this person is not in charge, and we don't get to meet the people that are in charge unless we prove ourselves to be friends, quote unquote. Probably by having to deal with the Herodian threat somehow.
That is one avenue. That's the suggested avenue to do it, yes. However, if you have your own counter ideas, there's always that. But in terms of are you gonna be able to meet with the world leader right away? No, you are definitely correct about that.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because I want to try and talk my way past this problem, because I'm extremely good at negotiation, and basically I want to be like, well, I mean, in order to create the groundwork for this sort of thing, then like obviously we need to have some sort of cultural exchange that we might, and I'm basically trying to talk up the usual process for first contact situations, because we generally don't go into first contact and then start beating up people's neighbors, right? Uh, Even though we know that we probably deal with the Herodian threat anyway, the very idea that this first contact process is contingent on going and like either diplomatically or militarily throwing our weight around, that's something I kind of want to talk us past.
Well, I
I mean,
would
Jill's
I'm not
actually on
say,
opposed
the
to
same track as well.
sorry, what?
Jill's on the same track as well.
Yeah, I'm not unwilling to do the thing necessarily that they're asking me to do, but I don't want our relationship to be contingent on it one way or the other. So I don't know if I can make some sort of sort of bargaining based role, or in order to try and
well,
unwind this impasse that she seems to have in her mind. But like it seems to me that we hold some cards here because they need us to do something for them. So like I want to try and get us past this.
that's fair. Then I would say try to negotiate past it because I mean, you're still in the office. She's right there.
So
Um,
would this be presence command?
so I'm not gonna. So how do I put this? I'll let you have a role to kind of understand exactly why it's contingent on that, and then that can influence um what you want to say to her. But just to kind of skip out on the whole process, no, that I won't cover in a role.
You got to RP out
right?
your
Well, you
argument.
can explain to me how I can do it, but just like so we understand, my character is way better at this than I am. So I do want to like use my character skills to do it. So
No,
yeah,
that's fair, but
President's Command then.
what you're also asking for is a massive cultural shift, and that's not really something that is.
So I do want to understand why that would be a massive cultural shift. So why don't we start there?
So that I
So
think presence or insight command I think would be applicable for difficulty too.
okay, hold on. I just
Are you
realized I'm
trying
on
to
Cash's.
do this mentally, or is this through a discussion?
Oh, this is obvious. I'm doing this verbally. So yeah, people are hearing me try to unwind this particular Gordian knot through my persuasion skills. So if anyone wants to like help me do it, I do have cultural flexibility, which would normally reduce the difficulty by one. Uh, so what did you say the difficulty was?
2.
Okay, and that's with that, or
I apologize. 1 with that.
okay, all right. Uh, hold on. I Cash's character sheet keeps coming up here. I think I can close that right now. All right. So insight, command, or no, presence is better. So and focus. I'm gonna put like this is kind of central to what we're doing, so I'm gonna actually spend 3 momentum on this so that I have the 4 dice to spend. And
Joel would assist too, so that comes with a reroll.
and because like Desesh is now framing this as a negotiation in his own mind, his unwavering belief that he's amazing at this is going to come in. I want to use my "I know what I'm doing" value to just like flash the pearly whites and use my magic.
Done and done.
All right, so that's two successes to start, and let's see what happens. Boom. Boom. So that would be yeah, eight
So far
eight
until
successes to
I'm just
start.
waiting on the assist.
Leadership as a focus or Starfleet protocol.
Protocol. I'll take protocol.
Okay. And since we beat the difficulty, it's another momentum.
All right. So let me get to the explanation before the bonus momentum. So as she starts to explain to you, and I'm gonna explain this a little bit out of character, just because it's massively easier to do so. All right. Uh, the captain, even yes, in the Federation, the captain of a starship has the authority to treat with world leaders, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, to this civilization, your Captain Morgana, who is the highest ranked person on here, is really not overly different in rank to NK over here, who so basically it's a very regal society. Their rank and position is something that is quite important to them, and the fact of the matter is it's I don't please don't take this as insulting, even though this is insulting. Um, your position situation at the moment just doesn't warrant speaking with their leader. It's just not done. Um, it's the whole proving that you are able to determine that no, the dealing with the Hirogen is not the only avenue with which to prove yourself, but it's simply the one that uh, they've suggested. They um, uh, you know what? It also, I'll even say, it also becomes clear that they're looking for avenues for you
Mhm.
to essentially do this because um, one, it's clear through discussion that they have had some rumors about the Federation, and that they're not walking into this completely blind, but at the same time, um, you just it's one of those things where your culture is clashing up against their culture, and
Mhm.
um, you know, I don't want to be a dick and say that it's an impossible task, but essentially what you're asking to do and kind of just cut through that red tape and just go straight to the leader uh, is just not something that they're prepared to do. You know that they're firm
Part
on
of
that.
this process is the thing. But that having been said, as we pointed out, we got a bunch of momentum to play with here in terms of advantages.
You
And
do. I'm not so out of character. I'm not going to let you skip straight to the leader, but I'll give
perfectly
you.
fine. Just, you know, obviously trying to make headway here, though. Uh,
During
First, sorry,
during
go
this
ahead.
course, it would be mentioned that Starfleet doesn't, just like mentioned before, we don't go out attacking neighbors to gain friendship, but there are many other ways that we could prove assistance if there is any needs that are of a non-violent nature that we can provide, that we may be able to provide. Simply need to let us know.
So,
Um,
just in terms of what I might have been able to accomplish with this particular exchange, though, and that might be worth momentum spends. First of all, I would like to elevate the captain's sort of relative standing in the eyes of the captain, and like make the step of making it clear that that the captains of of Federation starships are in fact diplomatic envoys and ambassadors, and exactly the kind of people that in our culture do this sort of thing, because they have to meet us halfway too, right? Uh, and so part of that, maybe a couple of momentum into building up Captain Morgana's status in the eyes of this society for the purpose of talking to more important people in the future.
I mean, there's nothing. I mean, on it. Never mind. I will keep that to myself.
yeah, for some reason, I don't think the captain is gonna oppose that one. And
Mhm.
personally, I don't so much either. I'm not 100% sure offhand how to apply it, but in all fairness, I don't think that's gonna be a factor right away. Um, you
Well, it
guys do.
already is, though, because we can't talk to certain people yet. So I'm just like trying to get us further up that particular chain of being.
Well,
Um,
Like, if classism is going to get in the way of this thing, then I want to class us up a bit.
uh, that's certainly that's certainly fair. Hmm. All
In
right.
many
Well,
cases, all other interactions with other worlds, uh, the captain often speaks for leadership simply because the area that we come from is so vast, it would take years for leaders of equivalent class to travel from place to place. It's been much more effective for the starship captain to speak in their stead, and if that's of any value.
Not to
That
put too fine a point on it, too, our leaders of equivalent status, we have leaders of much greater status in the sense that we represent an entire federation of planets, not just one system, right? Like we could get like a Federation commissioner here that like is responsible for a single planet or something like that, which might be the equivalent of status. But I think like one of the things that we might be able to impress upon them is the enormity of the Federation and the resources that it represents. I mean, obviously, without trying to overtly offend them, but uh,
Here's
yeah.
here's something: the globe that Jill was trying to analyze. Can it be manipulated? Like, is it like some type of a technological device that can display information?
Um, all right. Just because we're stacking up issues here, let me. All right. The globe is a quick and easy question. Yes, essentially.
Uh,
Or it could easily be turned into. Um, Now, as to the classism situations, um, uh, I'm gonna say that you can tell that the argument is definitely making headway, and it certainly has some merit. And as the two women kind of share a glance with each other, um, look back towards you all, you can tell that I'll just build on that last role. You can tell that they're really trying to figure out a way around this as well.
Mhm.
As they say,
well, this might
well,
help. The Jill will try to do the best she can to, in the shape that it is, the scale of Federation space, and compare it to the sector of Azurian space, and just try to emphasize the enormity of what the Federation represents as part of the buildup of Starfleet captains.
Yeah.
Often being, while rank is captain, they're also culturally a lot higher simply for being able to be be on point in
Mhm.
many diplomatic negotiations.
Yeah. And just to be clear, Jacob, I'm not trying to argue past the bouncer here. Like we're not going to get there today. I'm just trying to make headway with what is obviously going to be a situation that's going to make this harder long term. So.
no, that's certainly fair, and well, quite frankly, it's working
Mhm.
they as they finally kind of look over and say, "Oh, the these are all good points. These are correct points." Uh, and the ambassador kind of almost gives an embarrassed shrug as she says, "If you were to meet with one of the leaders of our closest civilizations, that would, at least culturally in our eyes, elevate the captain here to being able to operate on such a level. None of them have such, uh, none of them have such customs."
So, what I would like to ideally leave this off with in terms of today is, now that I've got her kind of in an awkward situation in terms of wanting to figure this out, I deliberately pull back and say, like, well, we can deal with this at a later time, and try to leave her feeling like I let her off the hook in this particular moment, and just kind of use my cold reading to try and try and get it so that she's on our side for whatever the next stage of this might be. That's kind of my manipulation here. It's like, we
Interesting.
appreciate that you have your customs, and we certainly want to honor. We as the Federation are very important about understanding and acknowledging the sovereignty of nations that we come to in peace. So, like, it will be necessary for us over time to take the steps and to find the accommodations where we can come to a new understanding between our peoples, and we recognize that that will take time and understanding, and that sort of thing.
Um,
Let her off the hook.
I am going to incorporate that into later dealings. That I certainly am.
Mhm.
And as far as other options for building trust besides attacking the erosion, and also meeting with the other ones,
Mhm.
our ship is specifically dedicated towards the healing of others.
Mhm.
If you have, while we're primarily a non-violent culture, we are very willing to help if you have any serious issues that you may be willing to share with us on a medical or a healing nature.
I'm gonna take this out of momentum, but why doesn't everyone make me an insight security or insight command role?
Mhm.
Difficulty 2.
Counseling as a focus.
Man.
Yes. This is
Elori,
basically a perception check, so things along those lines will.
Okay. Is it the kind of perception check that persuasion would help, given that I'm, like, doing... Oh yeah, I forgot.
Persuasion, no.
Okay.
Uh, Protocol, Starfield Protocol, or leadership.
Leadership, yes.
and I am going to argue her Nira's is difficulty 1 because Elorian. Her Elorian trait.
Listening, yeah.
Uh,
Technically, this, I mean, even though it's a perception in a social conflict, which is.
I
Which.
will say yes, but hold on, because I think I just heard enough. Be right back.
Hmm. Oh, before we get too much past it, sorry, go ahead.
No, before we get too much past it.
I just wanted to point out, if there was any extra momentum left over in my bargain there, it was used to look impressive while doing it to my colleagues, who I want to think I'm hot shit.
Or just hot.
In this instance, hot shit, but yeah.
So
But I'm good at this.
I'm not gonna. I'll take that. I'm not gonna take momentum
No,
for
that was
that.
more
But,
just for them. I want them to know that that was impressive looking.
Take a threat for the captain, and here she goes.
I'm going to try to argue between Ryzen or Betazoid trait, since this is a massive. We're trying to see through two different cultures, having gone through all the different cultures that go through Ryza, knowing that certain things might look poor on some cultures and some things might be impressive on others.
What does the trait do?
Just be raised in a rising culture
No, I
and having
mean, what is that
It's
like?
literally just a trait.
to reduce exercising the trait to reduce difficulty, just like the Elorian one.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Well, the Orlorian one's a talent, though, right?
No, it's give me a second. I actually have the paper for it.
Mhm.
Every species has like that species trait, which
Okay.
are
I just
they
thought that
give-
Orlorians had one that was specific, that was an actual talent.
That's the temporal awareness, which the captain also has from being in the
Mhm.
Nexus.
Oh, I'm thinking of
traits.
something else then.
Yeah, traits are things that a character has that can make
No, I
something
know what
easy.
traits are. I just thought this was a
Yeah,
talent in this instance. I have cultural flexibility, which is an actual talent, though. So if that affects
right.
things, then that might reduce my.
Uh, and we're gonna. Yeah, we still have the excessive momentum, correct?
Uh,
We still have
yeah,
6 anyway.
I'm gonna take 2 of it away, but there's 3 extra, I'll say, because we never really dealt with that.
Stolen. All three stolen.
I still look like hot shit, though.
So about that, I will agree that it's certainly you're certainly deserving of it, but I'm not gonna force that onto other
No,
players.
I know. I'm just playing around.
But the
The one,
GM certainly
oh,
thinks it is deserved.
the one in the zero was Kiana's role.
Okay. Okay.
Whoa.
Uh, so everyone passes this, I think. Yeah. You all see as oh God, at this point, I'm so sorry. I forgot who mentioned it. Who just made the spiel about it being a healing ship?
Jill did.
Jill, thank you. As you mentioned healing ship, both of them kind of almost imperceptibly clam up just a little bit, um, and then after just a moment, it passes, and you can definitely tell that as they put back on their expressions that uh, something about how you classified that ship, uh, certainly as a healing ship, was significant, but
Here's where cold reading comes into it, because when I win a challenge like this, I get a free obtain information ask.
what's your
Uh,
ask?
when they responded in that way, do I get the read that they responded because a healing ship is a bad thing, or because it's a good thing? Just like generally, which side of it did it appear like this was on? Do they need a healing ship? Do they? Well, you don't have to go into that,
Definitely,
but just like, was it a good thing or a bad thing?
it was a necessity,
Okay, so
but
a good thing
yeah,
from their perspective.
yes.
Okay.
Um, although the captain will nod in agreement with Jillian. Uh, in fact, the two people at either end, she points to the two doctors, are healers, as was myself before I was given command.
Um, Nodding slowly. Um, the ambassador says that's quite a laudable profession. She says, kind of looking at the two civilians before looking back to you, Captain, and and uh, then almost a little confused, uh, says, "You lead a school, yet you also heal them."
Hmm. I healed before I led, she says. They do the healing now. And from time to time, I suppose I do as well. She'll nod.
Um, Kind of softening up slightly, the ambassador says, "Yeah, and please, I hope you don't feel uh underwhelmed by your experience here due to our culture. However, um, sometimes uh, the adaptation of others' customs are, well, slightly more difficult than continuing one's own."
The captain nods.
Um, and she says, uh, "It would, as perhaps extraneous as it sounds, it would certainly relieve us of this particular nuance should you um, simply introduce yourself to another one of our own trusted allies."
She's suggesting that we talk to one of the other civilizations. Is that
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
she's getting at? Okay, all right.
So
Just to be clear.
basically, out of character, the silly idea that she came up with as a result of your awesome role was basically have Morgana talk to one of the other uh, rulers, which would basically put her on the level of being able to talk at that level in the eyes of the Azurians.
Yeah, there are other civilizations that don't have these same taboos that we can use to elevate our status in the eyes of the what are they called again?
Azurians.
Okay, Harmonites. Got it. Uh, uh, I'm writing it down. Okay. Uh, but yeah, okay, that sounds like a fair deal. I like it. Uh, I do actually like. I do want to take a moment, and I kind of like talk to like. You're going to be meeting with Captain Desan and the Herodians soon, and like we would just like to make sure that like everything is understood in terms of we are currently involved in diplomatic talks with Captain Desan as well. We met him at the same time that we met you, and he has taken steps to, present himself diplomatically in the hopes that we might come to an understanding as well. He knows a great deal about our society, and we are just learning about his situation. But we understand that we want you to understand that he doesn't necessarily reflect on or represent the Federation as a culture, even though he has some understanding of it. Basically, I want to make sure that they're not going like that any faux pas or failures to negotiate diplomatically are not going to fall back on us because the Herodian maybe suck at this relative to us.
Oh, no, the, kind of you almost intuitively understand that kind of the very system that is at the moment blocking you kind of also protects you. They're not gonna take his, the he is the Hirogen are definitely different from the Federation, and
Yeah.
everyone's kind of judged on their own merit.
Yeah, just out of character. I mean, like, this is partially that I also don't trust Tassan, too, right? I mean, like, he goes around quoting Federation policies all the time. The idea of him pretending to, like, be buddy-buddy with us or otherwise try to use that to leverage things, I don't put it past him yet. So I'm just trying to let the framework so that he can't try to pull a fast one on these people. Even though I'm
No,
trying
that's
not to like burn him for the purpose of if he legitimately wants to openly and honestly communicate with these people, I'm willing to let him rise and fall on his own merit. I just don't want him trying to use us because that's what I'm worried about.
you're basically separating the two of you.
Yeah, and as long as I manage to accomplish that, I'm fine.
Oh, 100%. That's
Mhm.
already big.
Jill will
Um,
actually turn to the captain and say, speaking quietly, but probably not to the point that she can't be heard by the others. Perhaps an offer of exchange of information may earn us some credit with our hosts.
Uh, Perhaps, she says. I'm assuming that was part of the first contact package that Jill put together.
Mhm.
The
One thing.
the
Okay, go
package
ahead.
itself is more or less what the Federation is and what they represent. As far as specific, and it's not very specific information, just what we're all about.
it's the
The
infomercial.
one thing that is a specific bit of information that we might be able to give as a gift right now that wouldn't have been in the package is the translation data that we have developed in the interim. That when we first encountered these people, we could barely talk to them, and now our universal translators are working. So if we could impart the data that allowed that exchange to be possible, I think that's a pretty significant gift. And maybe not like give them universal translators or anything, but give them the ability to translate between their language and I don't know, like Galactic Common or whatever, Esperanto or whatever we use as a
Federation Basic.
standard core language, Federation Basic.
Yeah, perhaps exchange of our languages so they can better understand it. If mostly if we gave them our local area, specifically the Ebon Expanse and that area of space in return for possibly more information on these neighbors, so we're not going in blind.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably standard at this point to tell them where 17 is, right? Because that's our sort of forward diplomatic station for this area, right? We're not worried about that security.
Well,
Well,
if nothing else, it's not your problem.
yeah,
Well, I'm not going to burn Arif just because I don't like him. I like if it's a standard thing, that's basically our embassy here, right? So, like telling them the location of that is not unreasonable. I don't think.
well, Captain already gave the frequencies, so it's not. But
Hmm.
yeah, but what's the captain's take on making that offer?
Oh, please, by all means. She says any help would be useful. She says,
Then yeah, Joe will turn to the ambassador. So in an attempt to perhaps promote some goodwill between us, an exchange of information. If there's anything you would be willing to share about your neighbors, we will give the information we have for the area of space we have inhabited, mostly, especially around the anomaly and The hazards around there, as well as what we know of this area, and she'll move the map
Mhm.
to like where 17 is in that section of space, which would be. I'm pretty sure their information would be relatively vague
Mhm.
since it's so much farther away.
It would
Well,
perhaps be neighborly too for us to tell them where the Ebon Expanse is and reassure them about that basic situation so that they're not worried. Because I know it came up in conversation and the idea that there is
Yeah,
an environmental hazard out there. Let's just
yeah,
reassure them that it's not going to affect them. Yeah,
that was part of her offer of
yeah,
exchanging information was including the expanse.
yeah. I remember you mentioned. I was just
Space.
making it
Uh,
explicit.
no,
and
it was mentioned.
Yeah.
and as you make that offer, she says that would be quite kind indeed. In exchange, I could certainly give you an overview on Bahara and the Avian Alliance, but Ambus likes to keep, well, they like people to learn about them themselves. However, I'd be happy in exchange to give you an overview of our own culture, so that perhaps maybe we can avoid such clashes in the future, she says, looking slightly askew or slightly away from the table.
No, Joel still put on a pleasant smile, and anything you could provide about yourselves and your neighbors would be very much appreciated, and we will return the equivalent information of ourselves and our neighbors as well.
Um, and lest we lest we be rude, when we return at a later time, we would, if I may, Captain, we should invite them aboard our ship.
Mm, she nods. We uh she'll nod. Out of character, our ship does have a section for like aquatic species because we're a hospital, we serve all kinds. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
even if you didn't, you could definitely shoot one up real easily. You guys are equipped to do that.
we are one big holodeck. I have plans for how we're going to give them a tour of our ship.
Well, she'll say, well, with our aquatic area, I don't see why not. Getting around some of the drier areas might be a problem, but
Well,
It
that
won't
is,
be.
if you don't
I'm
have
on it.
a way to adapt yourselves.
I'm perfectly able to breathe without water, the ambassador says. This
And
is
not
simply
to
easier for our locomotion.
Joe nod. Um, what about locomotion outside of water? Are you able to adapt, or should we consider adapting our ship?
Looking almost insulted, she says, we will adapt.
very well.
And also, as after you had made the offer, she kind of hands you guys a data clip, and I'll get to their information in a minute, but the five of you kind of seeing your devices, kind of just some basic information about the um, two of the three civilizations kind of feed in. The first one is The first one is Bahara, which is a humanoid civilization. They have basic space flight. They make good wine, but they keep to themselves, and they're an agricultural culture.
But if they have basic space flight, you're talking like shuttle Columbia kind of space flight, yeah?
They basic warp travel, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking to him otherwise.
Um, as far as the other one, the Avian Alliance, they're highly advanced, and the Azurians warn you specifically that they don't allow weapons to be powered in their space.
It's a good tip.
That is, yeah, Jill will show her appreciation of that information as well. We will take that to heart.
Oh, whoops, that information was supposed to be on the regular screen, not the GM screen,
So,
but
is the Avian Alliance not just one planet? Then it's a like a civilization that spans multiple worlds. Like they're significantly further along in the curve, so to speak.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. And that was the one that she suggested that if we were to get their endorsement, that would elevate us.
Any one of the three.
Okay.
And the last is Ambus, and she explains that out of respect for them, uh, she won't give you much. She won't, if any, information about their culture or their peoples, but she does assure you that they are not hostile.
Understood.
All right. I feel like we're hitting diminishing returns on this. We did a really good job. I think we should pull out and confer on our ship. So I'm going to be kind of like signaling that to the captain and seeing where she's at.
She nods. She'll look and say, "Well, it seems we have some tasks ahead of us. If you if you don't think it terribly rude, I think it's time for us to take our leave for the moment."
Um, as the ambassador actually doesn't smile, and I'll make a point to say that she's smiled rarely since you've come in. She gives you a brisk nod and says, "I too think that this is or I think that this was a good first step, and um, well, quite frankly, um, I'm sorry, she doesn't say a good first step. She says, I think it's a good first thrust, and um, I look forward to your return when, and she looks down at the table a little bit and says, well, when you'll no longer warrant speaking with me.
We will always be grateful for the opportunity to speak with you, and we hope that this is only the beginning of that opportunity. I kind of smile and try to continue the charm
Mm-hmm.
offensive.
And Nero will be respectful as she kind of goes to get up, as it were, from the table, as gracefully as she can in the water, not being a mermaid.
No,
Yeah.
that's certainly fair. And no comment is made on anyone's grace or non-grace in the water as the two of them kind of float sublimely, uh, them without straps on their chairs, but uh, as Hira kind of leads you all back to your shuttle, and uh, you can tell that for the most part she's not trying to engage you, simply trying to lead you back.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're kind of running into the time crunch, so I'm not gonna worry about you guys being able to get back into the shuttle or back into the ship at large. Certainly not with the advantage in the atmosphere and, well, next trip for underwater games. But as you all manage to get back onto the ship, having successfully not gotten killed.
Uh, there, uh, just as this process is going on, I would just like to put it out there that there is at some point like a brief exchange of uh, uh, Desesh, uh, and like doing his best to try and avoid like ogling Lawson.
I thought he was gonna say the mermaid, so that was a good twist ending for
Oh,
me.
Kirk, I'm I'm being very friendly with the new people, but
Uh,
that
yeah,
particular subplot is ongoing.
it would stand to be noted that, yeah, she swims very gracefully all the way back to the runabout.
The the paddles are real. We'll just put it that way. And sure, I'm just gonna pull us into the conference room for once you
Mhm.
guys get back onto the ship and dressed appropriately, simply because I don't have uh you know bathing suit tokens ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
though I should have.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
then it would be bad form to not switch out, anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'll note that as you get back to the ship, uh, you you can you weren't there for a super long amount of time, so Hunt reports that Dasan ship is about 30, I'm sorry, not 30, 60 minutes away.
Thank you, Commander.
I'd recommend, if we're going to maintain a air of separation as his ship gets closer, if we're not already leaving, then expand our orbit and show that we're maintaining a polite distance.
Nira nods and says, Diaz, if you would, please.
Aye, Captain. And Azuria too gets a little bit smaller on the V screen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in terms of first contact, that would be relatively successful.
Mhm. There
Now
is.
one thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there is one more first contact we might want to want to deal with. We're since we're now past the immediate difficulties. Uh, Desesh to Cash. He as Cash appears of like seated next to uh, uh, next to Desesh, and he proceeds to sort of look to the captain to see if he can allow this to proceed.
Yeah. I'm fair. Let's see. Ari's just kind of wandering around like this is new and really weird. Nira just
Jill does not look amused.
Nira just kind of is watching Ari, and then as she goes to sit, Ari sits on the ground. She's like, "Oh, I think it'll be fine." And then a moment later, Ari jumps on Cash
Mm-hmm. Now,
because puppy.
Cash is trained to like in animal handling, so that probably just proceeds with them getting to know each other as it goes forward. But like they're probably just running around in the background at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know
Or
if you want me to roll his animal handling to see if this goes well or not, but
I mean, I think you've put enough work into it that honestly that kind of belays the role.
yeah, that's
Personally,
fine.
like
yeah, I think at some point it'll end up with Ari like laying on Cash's back and gnawing on his ear, like yum yum yum,
Mm-hmm.
like a puppy would.
Yep.
Well, those two seem to be getting along swimmingly.
Desesh seems rather happy about it, but I do like he does mark Jillian's displeasure and kind of wants to get a sense of that.
With cold raining, it's probably not that hard to figure out. It's just the timing of it probably wasn't ideal in her
Mm,
perspective.
fair enough.
um also I'm not sure if this might have flown by the player, but Disesh, the Bahara would have immediately kind of jumped out at you a little bit.
Hmm.
Let me certainly by their insignia alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's like this is potentially Bajoran, right? That's like there's some background into that, and basic space flight. This is kind of pretty out of the way for Bajorans, right?
Not some of the older ones, because if you remember in DS9, they've been spacefaring for millions of years.
I think it's millions, but it's definitely like they were among the first. But
No,
like they were doing it. Sorry,
I'm fairly sure they dated Cisco's solar ship. I mean, he
I didn't think
stated
it was
what
millions, but
I
okay, I believe you. Like maybe I'm wrong, but it was. I remember the episode at least that you're talking about.
Yeah, they've been spacefaring long enough that it's not
Mhm.
unreasonable.
Yeah, that's kind of a uh, that's cool. Definitely going to keep that in mind.
Oh, they said 16th century, so I was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was still like they were capable of making it pretty far. So this is potentially a lost colony or something. That'll be something to look into.
Mm-hmm.
that is fair.
Hmm.
However,
That that displeased look would probably fade away fairly quickly. So I suppose it would be of interest to go there first. She's looking at the sesh.
Desesh, like, actually, like, he doesn't disagree, and he actually looks like he kind of appreciates that Lawson putting that forward, but he actually doesn't want to say it himself because he knows that he isn't objective in this particular instance. So he kind of
She'll
wants
smirk
the
in
room.
hesitation.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
It's
like, it being on his face, like he just sort of looks at the captain and doesn't try to argue it one way or the other because his excitement is obvious.
Well, to be fair, at least we'll have some kind of starting point with them. Possibly.
indeed. Although I would also recommend at least meeting more than one of these neighbors before we return. It would definitely look better on our part to have met with at least two, if not all three of them before returning.
I think there's some merit in the idea of making this a full tour because any government that we don't take the time to meet in our initial foray into this territory could potentially take offense at that. Better to be even-handed.
Indeed.
Well, I suppose we should start with the Bajara and then go from there, I think.
It will take me a little bit of time to update our charts with the information I've gleaned from their information, but we should be ready to move we should be ready to go underway by the time the sun ship arrives, should we choose to not wait around.
Very well. She looks around and says, anything else that should be discussed?
Captain, permission to work with the hollow grid to see. Like, it sounds like they don't want us to go to any great accommodation in terms of from the way they reacted to the idea of us making accommodations. I get the impression that for the most part they won't be necessary, but I think it would still be good. I think I can probably rig up the hologrid to make sections of our ship the equivalent of aquatic, using the internal replication systems of our holo grids. Even if it's just the holodeck, it might be useful to create the means by which they can move about some of the non-aquatic areas of our ship.
I would like to make a roll, GM.
What's up?
Insight medicine. As a counselor, would this course of action make things worse or better?
You're talking about
Is what I'm rolling.
diplomatically?
Well, diplomatically, and basically, she's like, the way they reacted, how truly offended. Like, basically, like, you have to look at it like these are prideful people. Even the smallest assistance could be seen as a grave misstep on our part, and she is basically looking by at like prideful people. Don't
Yeah.
really handle things like that well, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's why I was saying don't lead with it, but have it in our back pocket.
And yeah, Now, is Nira doing that just internally?
Well, the thought process, yes.
Okay. Well, while you're thinking that, Joel, speak up. Well, while they seem to not wish to make exceptions for us, it may be good to have, at least in our back pocket, something of a conference room that in the holodeck that would be adequate for both our kind and theirs.
She says, well, perhaps their refusal to accommodate for us was their way of showing respect, she says.
Um, Let
Hmm.
me just get to the results of that real quick. You can tell that, so yes, you were right. It is basically steeped in pride. Uh, a little bit probably more weighted on that side than uh your own level of accommodation. However, that being said, there's you can tell by their technology level that I guess you don't that they don't know exactly how easy it is for you guys to be accommodating. So uh yeah. I would say
They're picturing
while
us flooding our ship.
a little bit, or just going through trouble on their behalf, they're willing to take the hardship of hey, here's how to put it. They're willing to take the hardship of tougher locomotion in order to prove themselves as able.
And there's value in them having in their pride of being able to overcome. So it
Mhm.
seems.
Yeah, she'll
Yeah.
say, you know, it's the equivalent of the old soldier that refuses to use a cane because he swears he can do it. Would be the analogy she gives.
I mean, it'd be polite to make an attempt. We could always just ask them if they wanted to use that room or not.
Just want to have it. That's all.
Mhm. Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll let them know if it seems appropriate. Otherwise, having it on standby is not a bad thing.
If for no other reason than if any of them experience distress, having somewhere to put them is like if there was medical concerns or something like that. I mean, uh,
Well, I'm sure one of the floors of. I'm sure one of the decks of this ship is suited for aquatic species when it comes to medical needs.
mhm.
Yeah, we have many areas that are already uh, contained with water, and meeting in one of them is not an issue. Although they are designed for the staff to operate in, more than simply having an area to meet. Showing an area of work may test that sense of pride versus them just seeing how the ship how it is.
Yeah, we need to deck out the cetacean ops.
Well, if we need it, we have it. And that's what's important.
Mhm.
That being said, we do have time to work with this now. Uh, so she'll look to the doctors and says, "If you could work with the commander to make sure that they are that his holograms are at least medically viable for not to." She smiles at Sesh and says, not to insult your holographic skills, but well, they are doctors and you're not."
Fair enough.
Well, I can always see about replicating some of the fluid itself to be put into the holodeck. I think I still got some of that crap stuck in my ear.
And I think we have enough scans of that as it is, considering we probably still have traces of it on the floor of the runabout.
Yeah. I don't see any real difficulty in being able to adapt it.
Excellent. Well, then it seems like you all have projects, she says. If any of you require me after this, she says, as you know, my ready room's always open.
Of course.
And she'll look around and say, "Well, dismissed." And she'll stand up and call for Ari.
Hmm.
Oh, you blinked out after a call for Ari.
Oh, she'll call for Ari, and Ari will run to her, and she'll pick her up. And she will walk out, and she'll tell Deers to set a course for the Bajara system, and uh, you know, cruising warp.
And as you guys blast out of the system, this kind of seems like a good stopping point, unless anyone has something. Uh,
I don't have
Specifically.
anything at the moment. Oh, she does. She will. I mean, she'll just basically write a letter or whatever. She's sending it. She is going to try and send it to Kronos, but it's probably going to get rerouted.
Well, that's fair. In which case,
Cash goes over to request scritches from Jillian.
Yeah, cash will get scratches, yeah. But yeah, Joel will just be collecting her notes before leaving, but that's about it to get the information exchange ready to go.
that is fair. In which case, we will kind of fade to black.